You look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good, they pay good. Those are the famous words of Deion Primetime Sanders, one of the greatest and flashiest NFL players of all time. And for a lot of NFL teams, this very same quote can apply perfectly. In fact, some of the most iconic teams in the NFL, ironically, also have some of the most iconic uniforms in the NFL. Teams that come to mind are the Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, Dallas Cowboys, and San Francisco 49ers. All very iconic uniforms and all with very rich history. Some teams, however, well, they just don't understand it for whatever reason. What's going on, y'all? I'm Jade the Beast, and today I'm going to be grading and redesigning every NFL team's uniforms from the AFC. I will be doing a separate video next week doing the same thing for the NFC, but today we will be looking at the AFC. Before I begin, however, I would like to set some ground rules in place. Number one, I will be grading every NFL team's uniforms from a 1 to 10 scale, and every uniform will be taken into account, including alternates and throwbacks. When most people do this, they usually just tend to, consider the home and away. But I wanted to include the alternates in this because, well, if a team has an alternate, then they should be able to get a grade from that. Number two, I will be giving each team as many jerseys and helmets as they need for the redesigns. No limit. The idea behind this rules is that for some reason the NFL has this stupid rule, whereas like the NFL teams can only have 2 helmets and 4 jerseys. And that to me, in my opinion, it gotta go. Like that rule needs to be scrapped and needs to go. And I honestly think that it has no reason to be there, honestly. Like there is no reason why it should be there. If college teams are not restricted by those same rules, then why should the NFL? And finally, number three, each team will be given a home and away, at least one color rush slash alternate, a city edition uniform based on some of the designs that I've seen in the NBA, and 2 throwbacks, one for home games and one for away games. So now that those ground rules have been established, without further ado, let's begin. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Baltimore Ravens have a pretty solid color scheme. They have a pretty solid set of uniforms. Personally, my favorite combo is the white on purple set. But I really like all the other combos that they have. I really like the purple on purple. I really like the purple on white. I love the all whites too. Those are actually pretty awesome. The all whites are actually pretty solid. Like they're pretty underrated in my opinion. I also like the black on whites, although the all blacks, in my opinion, they just don't hit as well because of that yoga pants look. They really need a strap on a black pants, in my opinion. But regardless, I really also like color rush uniforms. If only they had a purple helmet. Overall, they have some pretty good uniforms, so I'll give them 8 out of 10. And not the best uniforms, but it's pretty good uniforms. And hopefully they don't bring back these monstrosities. Hopefully they don't bring back the gold pants. For my redesigns, I created a striping pattern that uses the Maryland flag. Obviously the main home would be the purple and white, but you could also mix in the purple with purple. That's fine too. My main away uniform would be the white on purple. It's my favorite combo, but they could also use the white on white. Obviously, they could mix it in with white on black. I'm just gonna show the white on white because I didn't really have a lot of space to show the white on black. Um, okay, now here's the black uniform. I obviously added the striping. They could also go with a black on white, obviously. And the city edition uniform is basically the same color rush, but with like a purple helmet, just like I said. Um, Honestly, this is actually my favorite set of the entire project, in my opinion. Honestly, and the throwbacks would basically be the throwback to the uniforms that they wore in the early '90s, and they have a away and a home for that. So those are the Ravens. Now, the second team that we're gonna go over is the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, have some of the best uniforms in the entire league. I really love that blue and red color scheme. Like, it is so dope. I also love the all blues. Honestly, those are my favorite out of all the sets that they have. I also like the change from a gray face mask to a white face mask. Like, honestly, that was honestly like a glow up. But I also gotta talk about the inconsistencies on the white uniforms. On the white uniforms, they have like the red on the inside and the blue on the outside. But like on the helmet on the pants, they kind of have it at the reverse, and that is something that kind of bothers me. Like it really bothers me, but nonetheless, I like the white on blues. I also kind of like the red uniforms. Like the red uniforms, in my opinion, like they're so underrated. Like they really need to wear them more often, in my opinion. Like they're the most consistent uniforms, in my opinion. And then also got to mention the OJ Simpson throwbacks, as I like to call them. They're pretty good, I guess. But overall, I'd give them a 9 out of 10. If it not for the inconsistency, they'd probably be a 10 out of 10. But yeah. Now, for my redesigns, I decided to bring back the red helmet because I know for a fact a lot of fans have been clamoring for that. But I also brought in a red pants, which would honestly make a red, blue, red look, which would honestly be really unique for the Bills. Obviously, you also have the white and all blue look, which honestly, in my opinion, I feel like it would be pretty unique to like have the Bills like switch between white and red helmets. I honestly think that would be pretty cool. Then you also have the white on blue with the red helmet. You have the all white with the white helmet, and you also have the all red look, which would honestly be pretty nice. And then you have the red helmet, red jersey, white pants look, which would honestly be a really good look for the Buffalo Bills. It would be really cool to see live. And the City Edition uniform is basically a navy blue uniform with the red helmet, paying homage to the uniforms they wore in the 2000. Obviously, those uniforms were just straight up trash. They were complete trash, but obviously, I decided to modify them to make them look a whole lot better. And finally, we have the OJ Simpson throwback with a home blue and in a way white, and with the white helmet and white pants being there for both the sets. Now, for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to be honest. Like a lot of people, I didn't like the uniforms they had before they redesigned. The white panels on the jerseys were just not good. The tiger stripes were inconsistent. They were chaotic. There was also those dumb orange shoulders on the away jerseys that I didn't like. The orange jerseys were cool, but that's about the only compliment I can give them. Although they did have and still do have the best helmets in the entire league. Those tiger stripes are unmatched. They're just too slick. And then they decided to redesign. They kept the same helmet, and but the jerseys are just much better. Like the white panels are gone. The tiger stripes a little bit less chaotic. They're more consistent. Every single thing that was addressed in the last jerseys, they were fixed. And my favorite jersey, honestly, got to be the orange jersey. In fact, my favorite combo is going to be the orange jersey, black pants, orange sock combo. And I'm also really glad that they brought back the all white colorless uniforms that they had from the previous set to pair with the white helmet. Although I am kind of sad that they didn't pair the white helmets with the away jersey, but that is just a minor nitpick. Overall, I'm going to give the Bengals a 10 out of 10, a perfect grade. There really isn't any flaws. Well done. Now, for the redesigns, they didn't really come out the way I expected, but I kind of wanted to make them look like the Memphis Tigers. I made the orange jersey the main home jersey because I prefer the orange jersey over the black jersey, in my opinion. The white jersey is obviously the away jersey. A little bit more orange is included in the away jersey as well. They compare both jerseys with the white and black pants. Speaking of black, they also have the black jersey, of course, which then they could also pair with the white jersey. I also use the alternate logo because I feel like that's a much better logo in my opinion. And for the City Edition uniform, I did the all white with the white helmet and with black accents. And I also did a throwback to uniforms they wore in the 90s. And they have both sets for home and away. So those are the Bengals. Now moving on to the Cleveland Browns. The uniforms they had before were awful. They were terrible. Nothing good about them, and I'm so glad that they moved back to the roots. They moved back to old fashioned. They realized that this is their best look, and they stuck with it. My favorite combo of these uniforms got to be the brown on orange look. Honestly, this got to be the main home, but for some reason they keep wearing their brown on white. I don't know why, but whatever. The brown pants for the away jersey needs a little bit more white, in my opinion. And the color rush uniforms, they're not really good in my opinion. Like getting rid of the striping was just a bad move because then it gives like the brown pants like this yoga pants look for some reason. I much prefer these uniforms with all the striping. It looks so much better. Surprisingly, they don't have an orange jersey like they did in the past, but that's just surprising to me. I don't know. I don't know about you, but something about the throwbacks, I just don't like them. The I don't know. It might be the drop shot on the numbers. I just don't like them for whatever reason. Also the this orange helmet logo, it's got to go in my opinion. Created this logo to replace it. It includes Brownie the Elf with a dog. Let me know in the comments if you like it or not. But overall, I'm going to give this uniform a 7 out of 10. the minimum for passing grade, but nothing more. Now for the redesigns, it's basically the same uniforms that they have now. I just added the logo that I created as a patch. I fixed up the brown pants to include little bit more white. Um, Obviously, you have the white on brown as the main away. And I also fixed up the white pants a little bit because on the jerseys right now they have like the orange on the outside and brown on the inside, and that was a little bit too inconsistent with the jerseys, so I fixed it up a little bit. Obviously, we have an orange jersey. You have the orange on white jersey, which honestly this is one of the best combos in my opinion. The City Edition uniform is based on the colorways that they had before they redesigned. Honestly, one of the best uniforms ever. And also, basically, the throwbacks are basically the uniforms they have now, but with a gray face mask. And they also have a white jersey to pair with that exact same uniform. Now, moving on to the first team in the AFC West, we have the Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos, in my opinion, are some of the most outdated uniforms in the entire league. Like, I don't know why they refuse to change. Like, these uniforms look like they belong in the 90s, which is ironic because that's exactly when these uniforms were unveiled. They were unveiled in the mid 90s, and for whatever reason, they still have not changed. It's annoying, in my opinion. They changed the color of the home jersey from blue to orange, but that's pretty much it. The blue jerseys look nice, but that's because it's the only jersey where you can only pair, where you can make pairs. You can pair them with the blue pants and you can pair with the white pants. But everything else, you can't really pair anything. The white jerseys, you can't pair them with anything, and you just get this repetitive set of white on white every single time they're at home. And every single time they try to make combos, you get this monstrosity where it's like the blue pants, the striping on the blue pants and striping on the white pants, they just don't mix because of different colors. The color rush uniforms are nice, but that's because they remind us too much of the throwback uniforms. Honestly, these are just the most structured uniforms. They're the most modern. Why can't they just go back to this? I I don't understand why these uniforms are still exist. Like I much prefer these uniforms. Can't we just go back to these? Nevertheless, I'm gonna give these uniforms a 4 out of 10. Like until they change, like these uniforms, they're just not gonna be good. Okay, with that little rant out of the way, for the redesigns, I decided to change the blue to like a lighter blue based on the blue that they had in the 80s before they redesigned. Obviously, the orange is going to be the main home uniform. They could also pair them with white and blue pants. The white is going to be obviously the main home, the main away. My bad. You could also go all white. You could also go blue on blue and blue on white. Basically every single uniform can either be paired with blue or white pants. The City Edition uniform is an all navy blue uniform that includes the Colorado sigil, like the C on the flag, as like a patch to pay nod to the state. And the throwback is basically a throwback to the uniforms they wore in the 80s with the old school logo, and they have a home and away version of this. Now, moving on to the youngest NFL franchise, we have the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans were founded in either 2002 or 2003, and they have not changed their uniforms at all since. And which is kind of disappointing because if I had to describe their uniforms in one word, it would be basic. Like they're not too good, but they're not too bad either. They have some good elements that I like. For instance, the red numbers on the white jerseys, that makes them pretty unique. I like the all navy blues with the red numbers; those are also kind of awesome. But other than that, like their uniforms are just too basic. I like that they took a risk with the red helmets. Those look pretty nice when paired with the red jerseys. In fact, I would like to kind of like to see them one day have the red helmets paired with the color rush uniforms. That would honestly be pretty awesome to see. Maybe throw in some red pants like they had in the olden days. But overall, just a basic uniform. I'm just gonna give them a 6 out of 10. And they're not really gonna go any higher than that. So for my redesign, I decided to bring in a two-tone helmet, basically based on their logo. The jersey includes different colored sleeves. The main home is a blue on red, kind of like what I suggested before. Obviously, you can mix it in with all blue. Then you have the white on blue, and I kept the red numbers because I kind of like that element of the Texans. It's kind of unique. And if I included blue numbers, it would kind of look weird. Obviously, you have an all white uniform. And I also have a red jersey, obviously, and this is a color rush uniform with all red, and obviously you can go with red and white. Now for my City Edition uniforms, I have two actually. The first uniform is a NASA space inspired uniform, basically paying homage to Houston's history with the space industry. And the second one is a Cactus Jack uniform, basically to pay homage to Houston native rapper Travis Scott and his Cactus Jack brand. Now for my throwbacks, I wanted to go with a Houston Oilers throwback because the Texans don't really have any uniforms of their own to throw back to. And you might be wondering, why would you give the Texans a Houston Oilers throwback if the Titans are the ones who owe that branding? Simple. The Wisconsin and Nebraska, they have very similar uniforms, and they're in the same conference, mind you, but they still wear them. They still wear very similar uniforms. So maybe that could be an explanation, but those are the Texans redesigns. Now for the Indianapolis Colts, they're pretty fresh off a uniform update, I would say. They called it a uniform redesign for whatever reason, even though all they did was change their number font. Like this, literally all they did, but they didn't really address any other part of the uniform. And it's not that their uniforms are bad. It's just that there are some elements that I really don't like. First off, I really don't like that they have like just one stripe on the helmet, even though they have two stripes everywhere else. The gray face masks don't work either. I kind of don't like how they're insistent on wearing white pants on both home and away games. Like they have the blue pants. Like why can't they just wear that more often? Like why can't they just wear the white jersey with the blue pants? And furthermore, why can't they just wear the all blues? Like it looks so good. The throwbacks are kind of good, I guess, but they kind of look like a Penn State uniform from an angle, but that's just a minor nitpick. Overall, I'm going to give them the same grade that I gave their AFC South rival, the Texans, the same grade, the 6 out of 10. For my personal redesigns, I basically kept them the same way that they have now, but I added the two stripes on the helmet to match the entire uniform, and I also changed the color of the face mask from gray to white. The main home is obviously going to be the blue and white, but obviously you can change it to all blue. The main away will then be the white on blue look. And something that I also added was the sock stripes, because I feel like sock stripes will look so good with this design. And obviously you can have the white on white. And I also added a navy blue look because I kind of wanted to give them something similar to like BYU because of, how they have both navy and royal blue. I kind of want to give them that. And for the City Edition uniform, I basically added like silver accents to like give them like a NASCAR feel. And I also gave them like the dots on their logo on the striping. And for the throwback, I wanted to like basically give them the same throwback they have now, but with a blue helmet. And basically, this is the away version of that, and those are the Colts. Now, moving on to the third straight AFC South team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the only compliment I can really give the Jaguars is I really like the change from the black to the teal as the main home jersey. Those are honestly the best jerseys that they have. But that's not really saying much because their jerseys are just, I'm just going to say, they flat out suck. Like, the jerseys have nothing special about them. They're just plain pants, a plain jersey, a plain helmet. You would think that a team called the Jaguars would want to do something unique with their uniforms, but no. They just, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but this is not good. Like, say what you want about their previous uniforms and their god-awful helmet. That's fine. I would totally agree with you. But at least these jerseys look like they tried. At least they look like they put in an effort to do something unique. At least they put an effort in doing something that no other jersey would do. These jerseys, their current jerseys, they just don't do that. I'm gonna have to give this team a 5 out of 10. Honestly, some of the worst uniforms in the league, in my opinion. Now, for my redesigns, I decided to include a striping pattern that has a subtle Jaguar spot print inside of it. Obviously, the main home would be the teal on white, but you could also go with an all teal look. The main away then would be the white on teal. And basically, I prefer this look over like the white on black. Like the white on teal looks so good in my opinion. And obviously, you could go all white. That looks good too. And obviously, you have a black uniform, and obviously, you have an all black set. But you can also go with black and white. Now, for the City Edition uniform, I was thinking of making the like I wanted to give it a Duval feel, so I decided to like include like a more abstract like Jaguar pattern, and the Jaguar pattern is also used on the helmet, kind of like the Bengals. Now the throwbacks are inspired by the uniforms that the Jaguars wore in the 90s. Obviously like the full body Jaguar on the sleeve and the old logo on the helmet, and obviously there's an away version of that, and those are the Jaguars, ladies and gentlemen. Now, for the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, when it comes to their uniforms, I honestly don't really have any complaints. Like, their uniforms are honestly, like, really, really solid. Like, they're some of the best in the league, in my opinion. Like, these uniforms honestly don't really have any flaws. Like, yeah, there's little things that they could do to make them better, but these uniforms can easily be recognized as a McDonald's team, but they managed to pull off that red and yellow. And for that, I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10 because there really isn't much to say here about the Chiefs. Now, for my personal redesigns, I decided to include a subtle Native American pattern on the sleeves. And obviously, the red and white will be the main home, but you could go with red on red. I also made the pant stripe on the red pants a little bit thicker. Obviously, you have the away with the white on red. And I honestly wanted to add a yellow uniform. I wanted to add a yellow jersey, but I figured it would look too much like the McDonald's. So that's why I didn't include it. I did, however, include an all black uniform. Like I've seen a lot of people like wanting to do this, and yes, this uniform might look like a little bit like the Commanders, but I feel like with that little pattern standing out, I feel like they should avoid a lot of comparisons. Now, for the City Edition uniform, I decided to include a headdress logo on the helmet, and I decided to make the pattern yet again like stand out, and they have yellow numbers instead of the white. Now, for the throwback, I decided to go back to the Dallas Texans days, but instead I added like the Missouri logo and put a star to like where Kansas City would be on the map to like make it more fitting of Kansas City. And obviously they have an away version of this, and those are the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, for the Las Vegas Raiders, like honestly, these uniforms are some of the most iconic uniforms in the league. Like honestly, I really don't think they need to change anything because those uniforms are classics, and it's unnecessary that they need to change. Like perfect uniforms, like honestly. Like 10 out of 10, that black and silver is dope. There really isn't much to be said. Moving on. Now, for the Raiders, I did not change a thing. Like, the only thing that I did for the home and away was make the helmet a little bit more reflective, which I think will look pretty cool. I also added a pair of black pants to the home uniform as a home alternate, and a pair of white pants for the away uniform as, like, an away alternate. Now, as a color rush uniform, I decided to create a new uniform with a black helmet with a bit of a striping pattern and a Raiders wordmark on the chest. And obviously, you have a color rush away uniform with this using this same style, but with a white helmet. Now, the City Edition uniform does two things. One, it gives a throwback to the days where they wore gold numbers on their away jerseys. And I also put in the gold to also like reflect Las Vegas, the Sin City. Now, for the throwbacks, I decided to basically just keep the uniforms as they are, but just include like an older logo that I found online. I think that would look pretty cool. Now, and the away throwback is basically this uniform, but with silver numbers on a white jersey. Basically, this exact same throwback uniform that they have now, but just with the older logo. Now, moving on to the final team in the AFC West, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, back when they were in San Diego, like these uniforms, the uniforms that they had when they were back in San Diego, the navy blue and white look, these were honestly some of the best in the entire league. But I know for a fact that a lot of people were clamoring for the powder blues. So, and that was understandable. They were arguably better. And when they moved to Los Angeles and finally made that switch, these uniforms became like so good. Like they became the best in the entire league. And then they decided to switch again when we moved to SoFi Stadium. And these uniforms somehow got even better, which was no easy feat. Like, these uniforms are hands down the best uniform in the entire league. My favorite set is honestly the powder blue with yellow, but every single uniform they have looks amazing. I'm gonna have to give them a 10 out of 10. Like, perfect grade. Like, there really isn't anything wrong with these uniforms. Now, for my designs, I honestly did not change a single thing about the uniforms. The only thing I did was switch the main home to the powder blue and yellow look. I also threw in some powder blue pants because I feel like throwing in some powder blue pants could do a lot for the uniforms. Obviously, the main away would then be the white on yellow, but you could also go for an all white for like extreme, for like particularly hot days. Obviously, you have the all royal blue look because I feel like the uniform is pretty good. And for the City Edition uniform, I decided to make a blackout look, basically the exact same navy blue uniform that they have now, but with like a navy blue helmet. Honestly, I think that would look pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. For the throwback, I decided to go back to like the LaDainian Tomlinson days, from like the early '90s to the to like the mid 2000s, and like basically make uniform off of that, and obviously having a away version of this. And those are the Los Angeles Chargers, ladies and gentlemen. Now moving on to the Miami Dolphins. Now the Dolphins, in my opinion, they have some pretty good uniforms, but they're not that good. Like, their uniforms are just okay, I guess. I like the all aqua green combo. That's probably my favorite uniform. And I don't like that they wear their white like most of the time at home, but I understand why they do it because it's Miami. Like, it gets pretty hot down there, so they're gonna want to wear a lighter color. Um, the uniforms are okay, I guess. The throwbacks though are awesome, like both the home and away versions. But it becomes an issue when your throwback uniforms are better than your actual uniforms, and that becomes a bit of a problem. So for that, I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. The minimum for a passing grade, but there's a lot of room to improve. Now, if I were designing the Miami Dolphins uniforms, I would give them a striping pattern to add interest to the uniform. Obviously, the main home would be aqua on aqua, but you could obviously go with aqua on white. That is fine too. The main away would then be white on aqua, white on white. I mean, using the exact same pattern, and you could also go with white on aqua for an alternate away. And I also decided to bring back an orange uniform because I'm not inherently against them having an orange uniform. I just think they need to darken it a little bit. That way it can look good. And for the City Edition uniform, I wanted to bring in like a powder blue and hot pink uniform to like bring in like a Vice City vibe, kind of like what the Miami Heat, but a little lighter. And obviously, you have a throwback to their 1972 uniforms, and obviously, you have an away version of this, and those are how I would design the Miami Dolphins uniforms. Now, for the Evil Empire, the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots, I really like their main all navy blue home uniform. Like, feel like that was a pretty good move. But what I don't like is that they keep wearing those same navy blue pants for the home for the away uniform as well. Like, that is something that I feel like needs to be changed. Like, I really like the silver pants that they brought out in 2022 against the Bears. And I really wish that they would make this exact same uniform their main home and make the away they have currently their main away. Like, honestly, I feel like it shouldn't be that hard. And I really like that they brought in the throwbacks, but the regular uniforms are just they're okay, I guess. I'll give them a 7 out of 10 just to be lenient. Now, if I had my way, I would make the navy blue and silver the main home uniform. I would also add in some silver to the navy blue stripes so that it could look better with the silver elements. And I also reverse like the striping on the white and silver elements from red on the outside, navy blue on the red on the outside, navy blue on the inside. I reversed that to make that red on the inside, navy blue on the outside because I feel like it would look a little bit better in my opinion. And I also added in some white pants to like have an away alternate. And I also added in a red uniform to have a color rush uniform because I feel like it would look good with the New England Patriots. For the City Edition uniform, I decided to basically combine their current uniform with their throwback uniforms. Basically, add in some throwback elements with some modern logos. And for the throwback, is basically the Pat Patriot uniform that they have now, but with like red socks instead of the white because I don't like the white socks that they have right now in the throwbacks. And obviously having a away version of this with the white on red uniform. And the second set of throwback is basically the uniforms that they had before they redesigned. Because I wanted to remember like the Tom Brady days, basically the uniforms that they wore when they were in their dynasty mode. And those are the New England Patriots. Now, for the New York Jets, I honestly don't know how to grade them because, like, they're kind of in a tricky situation. Like, the new green that they came out with in 2019, I really like that shade of green. Like, honestly, it's way better than the green that they had before they redesigned. But the designs, I'm not going to say that I hate them because I don't. I kind of like them, but I really do think that they can do a lot better. Um, I'm really a big fan of the way that they brought in the black uniforms. Like honestly, that was a pretty good decision. In fact, one of my favorite combos is basically the white on black uniform that they brought in 2021. But I'm not a really big fan of the black helmets. Like honestly, I think you guys can get rid of those. Overall, I really don't know how to grade the Jets, so I'm just going to give them a 6 out of 10. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I really didn't know what to do for the Jets. Like I decided to add like a generic striping pattern, although I don't know if you would call it generic because it is pretty unique. However, I did change the helmet logo to be a jet like flying across the helmet because I feel like that would be a pretty awesome design. And like the Jets word mark that they have on their actual logo, I put that as a patch on the chest because I feel like that would look pretty good. And obviously you have an all black uniform with the black helmet because I think it still looks pretty good. For the City Edition uniform, I wanted to pay homage to both the United States Air Force because they're called the Jets, and also to pay homage to the New York Titans, the team that they were called before they became the Jets. And for the throwback is basically the uniform that they had before they redesigned, and basically paying homage to the Joe Namath days. You have an away version of this, and you have a complete set of uniforms for the New York Jets, everybody. Now, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. When a college football team just flat out decides to steal and copy your looks, your uniforms, and your designs, you're doing something right. You should take that as a compliment because these Steelers uniforms are honestly god level. Like these uniforms are honestly just some of the best in the entire league. There are no questions asked. These uniforms, the black and yellow, are just iconic. They're classics. There really isn't anything wrong about them. The home, the away, the color rush uniforms, they're all good. Like the color rush uniforms are honestly some of the best in the entire league. I would honestly say that they're the best in the entire league, if not for the Bengals all white, because I think those are the best in the entire league, but they're a close second. But the Steelers throwback uniforms are honestly like better than the Bumblebee throwbacks. I don't know what the hell they were doing with those because these uniforms are flat out superior. Even if they are similar to the home uniforms, I'm just gonna give them a flat out 10 out of 10. Like no questions asked. Like they deserve it for real. Now in my designs, I honestly did not really change a thing. The only thing that I really did was fix up the sleeve stripes so it wouldn't get cut off at the trim. And I also added in a pair of black pants to complement the home for like a home alternate. The away I did not touch. It's basically the exact same fixes that I did for the home. And for the away, for an away alternate, I decided to add a pair of white pants that has the exact same striping pattern that is on the jersey because I feel like that would be pretty unique. For the colorless uniform, I decided to basically use the exact same colorless uniform that they have now, but with the modern font and a yellow helmet because I think that will look a lot better. And obviously, you have a reverse of this with a black helmet and an all yellow uniform with the modern font using the exact same striping and etc. For the City Edition uniform, I decided to create an all silver uniform that implements some of the blue and red that is inside the logo. And I also changed up the striping a little bit. And the throwback is basically the exact same throwback that they have now. I did change the face mask to gray because they used to have a gray face mask so that it will be a little bit more accurate. And you obviously have an away version of this, and those are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, for the final team in this entire video, I'm going to go over the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans, in my opinion, their uniforms are not all that bad, in my opinion. Like, their uniforms are pretty good. I really like the sword aesthetic that they went with to pay homage to ancient Greece and like Greek mythology. There are a few things that they can improve. For instance, the pant stripe, they can improve on that. And I think that also they could also improve a little bit more red, in my opinion. But I really like the light blue uniforms. The light blue uniforms are honestly the best uniforms in the entire set. Overall, I'm gonna give them a 7 out of 10. I really think that they can improve, but they're not that bad either. Now for my Titans redesigns, I decided to go with like an Oilers look, and I also decided to replace the flaming thumbtack logo with the T and the stars on the helmet to like simplify it a little bit more. I also added a Greek keys pattern to the striping and a Tennessee flag like emblem on the sleeves of the jersey. Now you might be wondering, why did you decide to go with an Oilers look if you gave the Texans, an AFC South division rival, an Oilers throwback? Well, Wisconsin and Nebraska have very similar football uniforms, and they both play in the same conference in college football, but they still do it. Obviously, I decided to go with an already uniform for the color rush, well, at least the first color rush, because like I said, I really do think that they can include a little bit more red. Obviously, you have an all navy blue look as a secondary color rush, and the City Edition uniform, it pays homage to the Tennessee flag, but also pays homage to like a previous Oilers design, the one with a silver pants and a silver helmet. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but this design I'm not really satisfied with. I just needed to come up with something. And the throwback is basically a throwback to the uniforms they wore back when they made their very first Super Bowl in 2000. And obviously, we have an away version of this. And those are my Titans redesigns. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is every single AFC team's uniforms redesigned and graded. Next week, I will be doing the exact same thing, but for the NFC teams. But if you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Until next week, this is Jada the Beast, not knowing how to end videos, and signing out. Peace out.